Today we're at the dollar store, aka Sci-Fi Prop Store. We're gonna do a mashup. Let's go. Hey, it's been a while. I'm at the dollar store. Gonna do a mashup as I typically do with the dollar store videos. I'm gonna go in there, no idea what I'm gonna buy, but let's see what's laying there waiting for us. Let's go. All right, here we go. I went straight to the shampoo. I don't know why, but I guess I wanted to make a ship, but I didn't know it. More shampoo. I'm like, this will be something. And then this was a cocktail mixer strainer. Looks like an engine. Another engine, shaving cream, and hair rollers. I'm excited about these. All right, got my loot. I feel like I'm gonna do a Kitbash spaceship, which will be fun because the last ones I did were from toys. This one I'm gonna do from little bits and bobs that I found in there. Real excited to get started. Let's go bash this up. All right, so looking at the loot, scratching my head, I wash off the labels and set it up so I can think about it more. All right, looking, what am I gonna do? At a certain point, I just dive in, but I do like to think about it. And here I'm thinking, well, clearly this is gonna be the core, right? But I don't know, I was really drawn to these hair curlers. And yeah, that's exactly what I imagined when I was in the dollar store. And then these, these are from like a travel shaving cream. They got a cool profile, and I wanted to use two of them, but I think I ended up using one. And then I'm like, oh, okay, this can be the windshield, the cockpit, right? So now it's not like gonna be a battle cruiser. It's gonna be more like a fighter, right? So I started thinking, all right, let me get a grill in the front here, and I can use these for the grill too, right? So I'm thinking, yeah, and I've just kind of learned, like, I don't overthink it. Again, like, these are for fun or for like a creative project of mine, right? It's not for a client. It's not specifically meant to be anything, right? So it's just sort of like, I just don't overthink it, right? It's like, yeah, that works, good. And yeah, and it's like once you start doing this, like I did one, almost a year ago, and I kind of had an open front with like a mouth in it like that, and that's something that I tend to do, right? So I have no problem with sort of repeating myself as long as I'm getting better, right? So it's like doing the same thing repeatedly, that's okay, especially if it's just like a hobby, but I like doing the same thing and then improving on it until I feel like I've gotten it to a place where I can't make it any better, if that makes sense. So now I'm just, figuring out this engine, got to make a little space for that. And, I always like to press fit stuff where I can, because, you're gluing together lots of different types of plastics, right? So it's always like a crapshoot. Like sometimes you'll get it all done and you'll paint it and you'll go to hang it up and like something just falls off and it's like, oh no. So now this fan, I'm really liking what this looks like back there. Now, I mean, you could, say, well, it's a spaceship. Like what's it's like, I don't know. I just like the way it looks. It's a solar fan. It spins because of the radiation of the stars it passes, right? So, just justify this stuff. So now I'm cutting out, or, I think this is going to be like a cockpit windshield. Just put a piece of tape on there so I can try and get it straight. I always pause and make an effort to cut straight, and it doesn't always work out. So I've learned to just go with it, you know what I mean? And I know like what I need to focus on and what's kind of like, all right, well, don't kill yourself. So here I'm just sort of thinking, all right, well, if I put these slices in there, I can sort of press fit this in here, give it a better angle, more of a slope, and then I can adjust it, right, to what looks good. And that's what we're doing all the time here, right? You're just sort of like, okay, what looks good? What does it need? And now I'm just going to tooth it up, right? Because like I said, all these different plastics, I can't give you sort of like an exact, use this glue and this will work. It's definitely like a trial and error. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to stack the deck in my favor, so I know that if I tooth it up, it has a better chance of the glue sticking. And then here, this, I just happen to have all these model kit pieces that I've saved, right? If you don't have this, that's fine. You just go and cut up more pieces of soap bottles and dishwashing liquid or whatever, you know? But I have this stuff, so, you know what I mean? I didn't go and purchase it. It was, you know, in a box. And then I have got to use the universal greebly, like I have to. I just love this thing. And what's cool about these ones is I bought these online and they were totally like, I didn't expect them to be this tiny. So they're, you know, I have them there and I'm like, oh, this is a great opportunity to use these, right? And then the reason I put like these strips on the side and things like that is because I just want to break up sort of the smoothness of that ship, right? And give it a little more interest, a little more opportunities for when I do the wash, because I'm going to weather this heavily. And then this way, when I do the wash and I do my powders and all that, you know, it has something to pop. You could just keep it with no greeblies, and if you were going for like sort of more of a Star Trek, like pristine type thing, or, you know, like a more futuristic, like clean type space show, then, you know, don't put all the junk on it. It's less work, but then you have to be very, very careful with your paint job and getting everything on there straight. So now all I'm doing here is, again, there's no sort of, you know, map or sort of specific way to do it. I just look at it and I'm like, okay, need something here. And I just have done this enough times too, where it's like I've definitely done them where I put way too much stuff on there, and I've definitely done them where I haven't put enough, right? And, you know, it seems like I'm playing when I fly it by the camera there, but I have to say, like, if I was building these not for an episode on my channel, I think I would still have the camera, because it really gives you a better perspective of what it looks like. Because for me, you know, these are film props, right? So it's always going to look different on camera than it does sitting there in front of your face. Like, I'll put it on the shelf, but these are not meant to be displayed. I'm doing air quotes here. So now I'm just going to hit it with a basic primer, just a quick black. And then this is my base coat, because I'm going to do a paint job, the Aztecing paint job that I like to do sometimes. So here's my base coat. Just put it out in the backyard, let that dry. And then, yeah, I just really like the Tamiya model spray paints. It's just really, you know, they're specifically for this, right? So here's these Aztecing. I'll link to my other video where I did this. This is definitely one of those things. Unfortunately, it's not like, boom, here it is on Amazon. It's like you have to hunt them down. And I have a link in my other video, which I'll put here, because inevitably one of you is going to ask me about these. And they're so cool, right? So, right, if you look real close at Star Wars spaceships and Star Trek spaceships, there's always like these little patterns, and they're really subtle. And again, it's more of like a filmic thing for me. So now that I have all my masking on there, the Aztecing, it's almost like a digital camo, I guess, technically is what it is. Now I put my other coat. So now here, you know, I talk a lot on this channel about happy accidents and just kind of going with the flow, right? So, like I said about the glue not sticking, giving me problems, I had a couple surfaces on here where the paint just totally chipped off, right? So here I'm just being more careful, and a couple places it flaked off. And then on that shaving cream engine cap, it totally just flaked off, right? But again, I'm like, yeah, you see it right there, how it's just flaking off. But now I'm like, happy accident, right? You're not going to scrap it and throw it out. It's like, okay, this is what it is now. Like, I meant for this to happen, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to lean into it, right? And I'm going to make it like, this thing is really chewed up. And you can justify anything, right? It's like, oh, the engine is so hot, and, you know, they put too big an engine on this thing to soup it up, and it, you know, it melts the paint. So here is, these are like these chrome paint markers. So what I'm doing is everywhere where my paint flipped off, I'm putting this chrome paint, and then that's going to make it, once I weather it, make it look like the paint chipped off, and you know that this was intentional, right? Keep rolling with it, and you know it's all good. Like, don't stop and start all over again. It's like, okay, this is what it is now. And actually, as is often the case, that looks better than if I didn't do that, right? So now I just have some flat black, and I just want to sort of black out the inside of this grill, and then I'll also flip it and do the engine. And this is just so, you know, it's just an optical illusion kind of thing. It's like you just want to, you know, make it disappear, right? You want it to give the illusion that it's something deeper, heavier going on in there. And yeah, that's acrylic paint. That'll dry quickly. So inspecting. So now I'm going to hit this with the hair dryer, because now it's like at a certain point, it's like, let's keep this party going, right? And especially with those acrylic paints, you can hair dry them. So this is like a thick crystal glaze. I usually don't use the crystal glaze like that, but this one I had was like a 4 times as thick. And like I said, because I was having the problem with paint, I went in that direction, right? So now I'm doing some rub and buff on sort of all these highlights, and I'm going with gold because I typically don't go with gold. So mixing it up, right? And it just really lends itself to these hair rollers, right? And at this point, I think you forget that you know, there's a hair, like my grandmother wears those hair rollers. She gets a perm and she wears those hair rollers, right? So yeah, just the gold, just kicking off things. And those are actually gas cans on there, those greeblies for like tanks, right? So now, you know, I sealed everything in. You're always sealing in these layers, otherwise you're gonna make mud. And here I just have a wash, and I do a sludge wash, right? So the sludge wash is like it sounds. You sludge it all over everything, and then you just tap it off, wipe it off with a paper towel, and what sticks, and what don't. And what I like about this too, when I do the Aztecing, is it makes it more subtle, which I like. Some people, you know, will say, like they've said when I've done this before, like, oh, you know, you want to see it, you want to show it off, which is fine, but for me, that's not the point. It's like all these layers, you can't get attached to them, right? Because you're going on to the next thing. When you put these layers, it's like, yeah, the Aztecing looks cool, but it's supposed to be that Aztecing was done 20 years ago, you know what I mean? So you just gotta sort of give those things up. So this I just had in my box. It's Starship Streaking. I think I bought that way back. And the guy at the model shop gave me like a good tip, which was like, oh, common sense. It's like when you do this stuff, it's like, you know, that's the way that it would run if this thing was flying through the air. It wouldn't drip down like if it was a tank or a car in a yard. Like with gravity, it's like the Starship is going to be flying through the air, and all this, you know, ooze and whatever it is, mechanical gunk or, you know, stellar ooze is going to slide back that way. So again, wiping, dabbing. I've come to find that I think dabbing is more interesting. So what I'll do is I'll do a wipe pass to get all it off, and then I'll like dab. And then this I'm going to seal in with the mat, right? So that's all sealed in, looking good. So now what we're going to do is, because we weathered it, we kind of lost our gold, right? So I'm just going to go over, not like the first pass where I did the total coverage. Now I'm just doing like some high points and just sort of kicking them back up, right? And I have like a lot of like tiny little greeblies on here. So when I do that, like, you know, I'll use a brush instead of my finger. Right, so here's, I love using nail polish. You guys know that if you won't follow my channel. If not, it's a quick fix. Now, this black gel is thick and it's shiny, and it's like, oh, okay, this will be the perfect windshield, right? Especially for something like down and dirty like this. And, you know, in the last model I did like this, I did this before the clear coat, and then I put on like the satin clear coat, and it sort of defeated the purpose. And one of you in the comments pointed that out, and you were absolutely right. So this time I made sure that I did it as the last painting step. Now I'm still going to do a pass with powders because, you know, keep in mind, it'd be weird, like, if everything is all beat up and banged up and then this windshield is like brand new. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix that with powder. There it goes. And then you see, like, right, so because of that nail polish, you see the reflectivity, right? So now I'm just going to take my powders and just do like a light pass with the powders. I don't know, I just sort of like creature of habit. Like, I like these, you know, definitely didn't have to do this, but I knew I wanted to dampen down the windshield, and I thought the powders would be the best way to sort of tie that all together. And then I just wipe it off with a brush, and then, you know, you get some happy accidents where, I don't know, I'm just doing this haphazardly, something's going to get dusted. And yeah, it was like, oh, this is going to be cool. I don't know. Now it's like, oh yeah, it came out cool. It was a little bit of a roller coaster, but I'm happy with what's going on here. And so now I just got some black powder, just putting a little couple dabs, and then here's my blue. I say this every time with the blue. I just use it. I don't know. I just think it looks cool. I don't really have a real reason. Although on the engine, I guess, you know, you could argue it's like, oh, okay, so it gets blued because it gets so hot. But, you know, if I'm being honest, I just like how it just breaks it up just a little, right? Just a little. And then it's like, final answer. I sort of look at it and I'm like, am I done? I don't know. Because basically, you know, artwork, things like this, they're not finished, they're abandoned. It's like, okay, take a look at that. Let's fly it. Yeah, back looks good. Are we going to abandon it and say done? Yes, and here's the beauty shots. Yeah, that's fun, right? And then I just have it on that little stand, and, you know, it's close up like that. You're never going to see it like that in my world, right? It'll fly by in some sort of kitschy sci-fi, or if it's on the shelf, it's more like, oh, this is a movie prop, not like this is a model. That came out all right. Had no idea where this was going, and it's always fun, you know. Basically, I think it's just about like being stubborn and just being like, okay, I'm gonna keep at it till it works. and one thing I wanted to talk about is, you know, if you look at, like, you know, when I show you the beauty shots, or if you really just stare at this, like, you know, it's crooked, you know, this is not a pristine model, you know what I mean? But that is never my goal, and there's two reasons for that. The first is I'm not capable of doing that, right? So I always like jokingly say, like, my stuff is rustic, right? So if you look at my films that I make for $0 or low budget, that is 100% me doing all the work. It's like Galactic Galaxy or Zenith Run or whatever. Like, they tend to be like kitschy, right? Because it's like there's a certain charm or like craft handmade quality to what I'm capable of doing. Now, when I do Erringer, or like, you know, I'm working on the Star Wars fan film now, or when I do my dramas, if it calls for something that needs to be like exacting, then I bring in somebody else. But because I have this practical jack of all trades knowledge, I'm usually able to get something from somebody that I typically could not afford or shouldn't be working with, but because I can communicate with them on a real practical level and I understand what they do, I get to work with those people, right? And the main thing is, this is just fun to do, right? Like, some people jog or go mountain climbing, or I don't know, whatever they do, taxidermy, whatever your hobby is. I just enjoy this. And I think, you know, if you watch my video and it's like, you know, you could do this. I guess that's the bottom line. And I always get like lots of notes from parents, you know, that they do these with their children. And I really appreciate that. And that always makes me feel good. And I think, yeah, like, this is doable. And then it's like a grounding, right? So it's like, you could just do it for fun. If you really want to make a movie or a video with this, you could like totally do that, right? Or if you want something a little higher up, a little higher standard, you'll have practical knowledge just from starting somewhere, right? I don't know. I just kind of went on a rant. I don't know where that came from. But anyway, right? $4 in a couple of afternoons. So I hope you found this useful. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Love to read the comments. And be sure to check out the merch shop. We got the hats, t-shirts. Buying that really helps to support the channel and allows me to continue making these videos. And, you know, if you did enjoy this and you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Well, just remember, I'm just here to help make sci-fi.